Hi YouTube. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on the astrology of health and nutrition and medicine. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I'm giving readings, the most critical thing that I can help someone with right away, immediately, without having to ask them about their relationships with other people in career or business, wealth, romantic relationships, whatever. The most critical thing I can help them with right away is their health, and that is so important to someone's well-being, because if the body is sick, if it really has an effect on our state of mind and our happiness. And by changing the diet or fasting or, going to a natural healer, getting acupuncture, those kinds of things will immediately start to or begin to heal whatever is bothering them or and elevate their state of mind. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I don't know how many videos it's going to take, probably about 4 or 5. But today I'm going to talk about the elements and how the elements interact with each other. There are 3 different ways, and also what planets rule which elements and the organs that these elements are corresponding to. So let's get started. Okay, so now there's 5 elements. They're called Pancha Tattvas, and Pancha means 5, and Tattva is essence. It means essences, so 5 essences. This is in Sanskrit. And in Vedic astrology, there are 5. They're called 5 starry grahas, or 5 starry planets, and they're the 5 planets not including the sun and the moon, and forget about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto too. So these planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, and they all are assigned an element. So the first element that generates from creation is ether, and that's ruled by Jupiter, and that rules the sense of hearing and also sound. And then the next one is air. That's ruled by Saturn, and that rules the sense of touch. And then it rules the, tangibility from the skin. And then the next element that is generated from air is fire, ruled by Mars, and that rules sight, our sense of sight, and it also rules light. And so after that, there's water, ruled by Venus, and that rules our sense of taste. And the final element is earth, ruled by Mercury, and that rules our sense of smell and odors. So now forget about what the planets that rule the chakras. This is not the same system. This is the system. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's also in Brihat Parashara Horashastra, which is a compendium on Vedic astrology. Those are the planets assigned to the elements. The chakra system is different. In that system, Mercury rules ether, or the ether chakra here, which is the Vishuddhi throat chakra. Venus rules the heart, which is the air, and on down. That's not the system that I'm doing or talking about today. So, but anyway, from there, you can go to how these elements interact with each other. And I'll just bring that up here. So there are 3 different cycles or systems. And one is the generative cycle. And I just went over that. I just spoke about that. How ether generates air, air generates fire, fire generates water, and water generates earth. And then the dissolution cycle is backwards, where earth dissolves into water, water dissolves into fire, fire dissolves into air, and air dissolves into ether. And so when you'll notice that, let's say, fire will generate water, and water will generate earth. When you'll see that a lot of times when there is a massive forest fire or there's a fire from a drought, then soon after that it will rain heavily. And then soon after that there will be a mudslide, which is earth. And believe me, I've lived in California, so I'm very familiar with how that works. That happens in Cali all the time. And it also happens here in Colorado, but also, in New Mexico, Arizona, anywhere in the West. And because, we have it's very mountainous here, and the mudslides will happen. In Florida, where I used to live, there were droughts a lot. That's hard to believe, but there were droughts, and then the fire would come, and then there would be rain, massive rain, and the rain would soak into the ground. There wasn't flooding in Florida because it's like a swamp. The ground is like a sponge, so it would soak up all of that precipitation. But then, the lakes would just be so high, the water level would be high, and then swamps would be high. So that's how kind of that works. Okay, that's the generative cycle, and then the dissolution cycle. And then the next cycle is the life promoting cycle. And that's a different one. That goes from, just bring it up here. The life-promoting cycle are the elements energizing each other. So, and that follows the order of air, Saturn air, to Venus water, to Jupiter ether, to Mars fire, and then to Mercury earth. And that you can think of that as a circle. And they don't generate each other and they don't dissolve each other, but these elements are life promoting. They promote the well-being and the life of their subsequent elements. So if you're weak in an element, and that's going to show up in your chart, let's say you have Venus afflicted, and Venus is water. And a way that Venus is afflicted is if it's joined with Saturn or one of the nodes, Rahu or Ketu. In Western astrology, that's the north and south node of the moon. So if you have Venus with one of those planets, then it's considered to be afflicted. And Venus is the water element, and the water element satiates and it comforts. And it also increases, it gives you happiness, and it makes you feel fulfilled. So when you don't feel fulfilled, then you get irritated very easily, and you become angry at small things, and that's Mars. So you begin to drain the element fire, which generates water. So those two elements are going to be out of balance, and that will show up in your in the health. And this is how it will show up, because each of these elements vitalizes or energizes an organ. And there's a yin organ and a yang organ for each element. And for Venus, the yin organ is the kidney and the yang organ is the bladder. Now, the yin organs are the vital organs, and the yang organs are the non-vital organs, or organs that you can actually live without. You cannot live without the yin organs because you just can't. I mean, you can get a heart transplant now, but you can't really live without your liver, and you would have to have someone else give you a kidney if you lost one of those. But these are the organs that are ruled by the elements. Jupiter ether rules the liver, that's the yin organ, and the yang organ is the gallbladder. So the liver is vital and the gallbladder is not vital. You can live without your gallbladder. You can actually have that taken out. And then the air element vitalizes the lungs, obviously. And then that's the yin organ. And the yang organ is the large intestine. And then the yin organ for fire, Mars, is the heart. And the yang organ is the small intestine. And for fire. And I personally know about this because my mother has an afflicted Mars in her chart. And she recently had to have a pacemaker put inside of her. And but she also has diverticulitis, which is some problems in the small intestine with digestion. So when you have a problem in one of these organs, or one of the yin organs or yang organs, you're probably going to have a problem in the other organ, the corresponding organ for that element. So that's something to keep in mind. And then, as I said, water, Venus is the kidneys for the yin, and bladder for the yang. And for Mercury, Earth, your yin organ is the spleen, and the non-vital organ or the yang organ is the stomach. So one of the, you have problems in one, you're most likely going to have problems in the other. Now, in another, what I just described before, if you have an afflicted Venus in your chart, you have an afflicted water element. So you don't feel satiated, you don't feel comforted. You could have kidney or bladder problems, but in addition to that, you'll be draining Mars because Mars or fire element generates the water element. So not only will you be draining Mars in your mentally or emotionally because, you get easily irritated, but also you'll be draining the heart and the small intestine. And they will be connected, the heart will be connected to the kidney, and the small intestine will be connected to the bladder in a lot of ways. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at a horoscope and you don't really see an affliction to Mars, but the person's complaining about heart problems or small intestine digestion problems. Then you can look to Venus to see if there's something wrong with Venus that's draining Mars, that's pulling on Mars. So you have to keep these different cycles in mind. You can think of it as the generative cycle and the dissolution cycle go together, obviously. One is generated and then one is dissolved. And then you have the life-promoting cycle, which is like a circle. And I'm going to put that up here. You can see it now. So, okay, that's my first video that's my first video for astrology of health and nutrition, because the elements are so important. And this is for mainly Western astrologers or even Vedic astrologers who want to learn about health and nutrition, the astrological rules for health and nutrition. And in the Vedic system, there's several different charts, or vargas they're called. In Western astrology, they're called harmonic charts, and they aren't used as much. They do use the drakana, or the decans, I guess it's called in the Western system. But in Vedic astrology, we use them extensively because everyone born within a 2-hour period, and in roughly the same area, I would say, about 100 miles or so, or no, maybe not that, maybe about 50 miles in a north or south direction, has the same chart. They all have the same chart. There's people born in that 2-hour period because it takes about 2 hours for the ascendant to move from one sign to the other, or 30 degrees. And then, but the harmonic charts, or the vargas, whittle that down to where you have people born within seconds of each other, and they have quite different lives because the ascendant moves in those charts to obviously, and then also the house cusps move. So there's something called the 30th divisional chart, It's called the Trim Shamsha, and it's based on the 6th house. And the 6th house corresponds to the sign of Virgo, and the 6th house is the house of health. So this chart is going to really hone in on someone's health karma, and also it will show accidents and being victimized, being jumped or beat up or raped or even murdered. You look at that chart to see victims of violence too. So I'll be talking about that in the next video, how to cast this chart if you don't know how to do that. My software does it automatically, but if you're a Western astrologer, it's very easy to just cast that chart and see the person's health in detail. Okay, that's all for today. I'm really working on speaking. I'm not that great of a public speaker. I write a lot better than I speak. My Mercury's in the 12th house. So my communication is, there's a lot of ums and pauses, and my mind works, but my mouth won't say what it wants to say. But I am working on it. I can do it. So bear with me. It's been a while since I've made a video. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next, couple weeks, I guess. Okay. Bye.